All right, so here we are in Grace's opening chapter here. So I just want to do this, kind of keep it consistent with some of the other cards I've been doing. And this area out here is quite intensive actually because it's open. You got a lot of effects, so it's not a bad way to start. So right here at 66 FPS, everything's completely maxed out other than your ray tracing. So ray tracing is currently set to off, but in the advanced settings down here, you've got everything completely pegged. So we've got it all completely maxed out, running DLAA native. And everything looks like as you see here on the screen. So I'm just running through it real quick so you can see exactly my settings. I have everything completely pegged out. So right here we're still at 70 FPS. So we're getting a good showing, you know, no upscaling really required at this point. We still have, you know, ray tracing and path tracing to go through. So I'm going to run through Grace's chapter here. And I'll do my best to skip any spoilers. I don't really want to ruin anything for anyone who hasn't picked it up yet. But yeah, we're looking really good here. So 70 FPS without any ray tracing, and our latency is right around 24 milliseconds of render latency and 47 milliseconds of PCL, which is your post-compute latency. That's more of like a overall setting. So right here, I'm going to skip this little cutscene and get back into it. So as you can see, we got a nice bump from 60s, 70s-ish up to 82, 83. And I've played a lot of this title. You're in these more confined spaces like 90% of the time so far that I've played. So you don't really need to worry too much about that opening scene. It's just a really good way to set a baseline. And these more enclosed areas are a little bit better off. So what I'm going to do now is go back to the main menu, switch over, and just kick on ray tracing. And then we'll go through that and then path tracing. So be sure to stay all the way to the end if you want to see all those different settings. And I'm going to do that and be right back. All right, so with ray tracing on, as you can see, we went from about 65, 70 to down to about 35 FPS in this area here. So again, you know, once you get in those more enclosed spaces, it jumps up about 10 or 15 FPS anyway. But what I'm going to do now is just jump over into the settings and kick on some upscaling. So right here with everything completely maxed out, you can enjoy some quality upscaling with that first level. Let's give it a minute to kind of sort itself out. It should be around 60 or so. It generally takes a few seconds for it to like kind of lock in and settle down. But yeah, we're right around 60. So with that first level of ray tracing, you're able to get a nice playable, smooth experience without really worrying too much about giving up any of your settings, your kind of traditional settings down there. But right here at 61, 63, so let's get into here and see what we can expect once we get beyond this cutscene, because it's going to jump up in this area. See, now we're in the 90s, and this is kind of how the whole game plays. I mean, it's very enclosed like this. A little bit of a stutter there, nothing too bad. But really what you're going to, get into with this title is just, more and more of these enclosed areas with very dramatic lighting. So ray tracing is a nice way to enjoy it. It definitely adds a lot more depth to the overall scariness of it. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of get inside and then run through Grace's kind of opening chapter here. So if you don't want any spoilers, I will skip the I'll definitely skip the cutscenes. That way, if you haven't picked it up yet, nothing's ruined. But yeah, we're at 96, 97 FPS in here, so we don't have any sort of let me turn my flashlight on. There we go. We don't have any sort of worries here. I mean, as you can see inside, you get a nice performance bump well into the 90s with just a simple upscale. We are looking really good, though. So we can definitely afford to go up on our ray tracing. So I'm going to jump into that now, and I'll be right back. All right, so here we are just kind of outside of the hotel again. We have our ray tracing set to high now, and it is worth noting that path tracing, which is going to be the next setting, is currently exclusive to NVIDIA. For whatever reason, AMD cards just don't have it yet. So if you're seeing any of my AMD card videos, that's why path tracing is not in there. But we are going to check out path tracing on this card. I think it's going to do a really good job. This game's running very well, though, because right here, all we did was just kick on the ray tracing to high. And we're still well above 60, and I think for a game like this, anything over 60 is fine. I mean, you don't need 120 FPS in a game like this. It's not realistic to want 200-300 FPS on a title that's narrative and slow like this game is. And that's not a dig. It's just it's meant to be that way. It's a narrative game, so we don't really need to worry too terribly much about just going through all the different settings that we normally do. I'm going to do them anyway, just because I know people are going to want to know how it scales. But I'm just kind of giving you a disclaimer that you don't really need it. So right here, we are going to jump over and see how we can scale with a little bit more DLSS. So let's go up to the next level here. So let's come into here and go to balanced. So this is going to be balanced with ray tracing set to high. And as you can see, you're at 89 FPS here. Skip that cutscene. But yeah, we're still looking really good though. I mean, 91 FPS is nothing at all to worry too much. God, that got me again. I forgot that happened. Oh man, I'm very jumpy still. After as much as I've played these, it still gets me. All right, so yeah, we're at 88, 84 FPS here. So we're looking really good. Let's scale up one more time, go to performance and see what we can expect. All right, so let's go over to graphics and then come down here all the way down. I wish this was faster. I keep these in here because I don't want people to wonder what I am doing or not doing, but it is kind of like hard to get through some of them. Let's go ahead and grab this key. But yeah, this is just kind of the first section. This part right here, she just kind of gets a little bit freaked out. I don't want to ruin anything, but yeah, we're going to jump through here, grab the key, pop that in. All right, so let's jump through here and get on with it. All right, so if we go up to ultra performance, I am testing this still with the driver that NVIDIA had to roll back to. So ultra performance doesn't look that great. It's still on DLSS 4, and it's a bit blurry. That's why I don't have the override for you guys up there like the traditional K, M, and L. It's just because it, right now at least, doesn't work. So we're still on the DLSS 4 model, but it still performs exceptionally good. So we're still okay. But yeah, at 125 FPS here, still looking great. All right, so I'm going to kick on ray tracing, and then we'll go through that and see what kind of performance dip we get with that. I'm going to jump back into the opening scene just because it's a little bit harder to run, and then we'll kind of go through a lot more of the chapter on those settings. So I'll do that and be right back. All right, so here we are, path tracing in its full glory. We've got 15 FPS here. So as you can see, these settings are really choking this card up. Even the menu's slow. So let's come into here and see what we need to do to get this up a little bit for us, because this is perfectly capable at 4K. You just got to do a few things. So I'm going to leave everything else maxed out. We're not going to mess with that right now. We're just going to see what DLSS can provide. So all I'm going to do is just turn on quality upscaling, and that's it. So that's going to give us from about 15, give it about 5 or 10 seconds to sort itself out. That's going to give us about 18, 17 FPS here, jumping up to, okay, there we go, about 28. All right, so still rough, but it's we're getting there. We're moving. All right, so we're just going to keep on going here and see what we can expect. So we've got 28 FPS to work with. Let's go up again on our upscaling. We don't need to torture ourselves too much here because up to performance on 4K generally looks really good, especially on DLSS. It just looks really, really nice. So balanced right now, we're just going to go up a little bit more on that, see what that can provide. So we are at 34 FPS. And again, this is a very difficult section in the game. This opening section with the rain, all the NPCs, you're not in a enclosed area. So I know it's kind of like, why is he just sticking around this opening scene? It is a harder to run area. So if it runs well here, it's going to run well everywhere else. So looks like balance gives us about 35 FPS or so. Let's jump down and just do a performance upscale. I'm just trying to upscale to the point where it makes sense to possibly frame generate. That way we can take advantage of the 16 gigs of VRAM on here. All right, so that smooths it out a lot. And on a game like this, 100% frame generation can smooth it out for you a good bit. With it being slow and narrative, I don't really think that you're going to worry too much about frame generating from under 60. It's not a big deal, to me at least. But yeah, as you can see here, we're still allocating 12.9, so the card itself is doing okay. And then we have 62 milliseconds of latency, which again on a controller game, it's fine. That's not a big deal at all. So let's jump over and just see what, let's see what some frame gen can do. Actually, let's go to ultra performance and see what that can do. This is going to upscale us from 720p, and that gives us your plus 60 experience. Now, it does look a little bit blurrier than it normally would, but it kind of fits that grungy atmosphere, so it's a little bit more forgiving than what ultra performance on DLSS 4 would typically look like. Again, with the L model override, if that ever does happen with this new driver they're still working on, we should be able to get a nice sharp image. I just kind of wanted to show you what the performance of ultra performance would probably look like. So now that we kind of run through that area, what I want to do is trigger this cutscene and get into like a more realistic setting for this title, because you're not in these open spaces that much. You start to get into really enclosed areas. Let's go ahead and skip. All right, so with ultra performance, like that fence back there is flickery. It's really nasty looking. It doesn't look great at all. So ultra performance, although, I mean, look, you got a crazy bump in your FPS up to 100 FPS. So we don't need ultra performance. It doesn't look good yet. I don't recommend using ultra performance. So what I would probably do is come in here now that we're on like an area that is a little bit more realistic to the rest of the game. This would be more what quality would look like, you know, with full path tracing and everything maxed out rather. So yeah, you have about 37 FPS here. Now you could come in and drop some textures and some shadows and get a little bit better performance that way. So let's go in and just see if we can keep it on quality and then drop some of those settings back. So let's come into here, go to advanced. So I'm gonna bring anisotropic filtering down. This is just kind of like what I've sorted out myself a little bit. So we're gonna come in and go to looking at shadows. Where are we? Particles are fine. Let's go with shadow quality normal, and let's go with ambient occlusion normal, and let's see how that goes. I think this is going to give us a decent break here. All right, just checking everything. So we left it on quality, and then we'll see how those dropping those settings down a little bit will do for us here. So just want to see how long it takes to kind of settle itself in. So about 40 FPS on quality, with some of those things knocked back a little bit. Still not like worth it in my opinion. I think that I would rather just upscale and keep everything pegged out, just, you know, to get my money's worth out of my 16 gigs of RAM. So let's do that now. Let's just kind of go back and turn everything back on. I just wanted to look at that real quick for you guys. So anisotropic, go back up to 16. Now, one thing about anisotropic is like 4 to 8 is a decent difference, but 8 to 16 looks almost no different. So you could leave that on 8. It really looks almost the same. All right, so let's come into here and go to, let's see, shadow quality, bring that back up. Let's go ambient occlusion back up, and let's just upscale a little bit more. So let's go to that balanced setting here. All right, so this is balanced, back on kind of how we started, and that gives you about 45 FPS here, 46. But you know, right here you could you could you could leave the upscaling on balance, and you could go up you could just frame generate, because your latency is 36 milliseconds. So frame generating from something that responsive is generally fine. If your FPS is, you know, above like 40 or so, that'll probably be pretty good. So you get a little break when you come into these enclosed areas. Let's jump through here. So yeah, we've got 52 FPS here, no frame generation yet. So I would probably say you could frame gen from balanced and be okay. So let's go over to, I just want to see what the PCL does whenever I kick on that frame gen, because it will definitely go up a tad. So right here you've got the Reflex low latency plus boost. I'm going to kick that on. It's just going to help your latency with that, you know, additional frame generation turned on. So that gives us 85 FPS with a PCL in the 40s. I mean, this is perfect. This is probably how I would play it. I might even consider going up to quality if your PCL doesn't go up too terribly much. Again, this isn't a game that's necessarily like you got to have, you know, a PCL in the teens or anything. All right, skip that part. All right, so let's go up to I'm kind of going through like a how I would play it section right now. So I'm just kind of feeling it out. I look at numbers and see like what levers I can pull to give me the best image for the least amount of cost here. So let's go back up to quality. Let's leave it on 2x with that boost. And if it stays under 75, which it should, I would probably say this is how I would play it. Yeah, I mean, your PCL is just way down. I say that as it goes up to 70, but I think that's just because I was going into a new area. So for the most part, yeah, you're over 60. You've got 59 milliseconds here. So I would probably say this is how I would likely play it. I would just crank everything out to 11 and then run through it this way. So you've got 70 FPS here. So I want to go through a little bit more settings for you guys here. Just check out, make sure I cover everything. I'm going a little bit off script here. Sorry about that. So let's go back to performance with a 2x because that's where we needed to go next. So let's leave boost on. That'll be good. So everything maxed out again. And you're still at you're 104 FPS now, and that gave your PCL a break as well. So you're at 38 milliseconds here. So yeah, this is another really good way to play it. Performance does look really good, and it's not this game again just does not require a ton of performance here. I'm gonna grab these wire cutters. Hope I don't ruin anything for anyone, but yeah, you gotta have these to come over here. That thing like falls down off that scared me too. There's a lot of jump scares in this, so let's go ahead and cut through this. Alrighty, and let's head on in. All right, so 99, 98 FPS here. 104. So like I said, in these enclosed areas like this is just like how most of the game is. It's really tight. You know, you don't have to worry too much about loading in a bunch of huge scenes. So let's jump over and see what we can expect with frame generation on potentially 3x with a quality upscale. Now that we're in like a little bit more enclosed area. But yeah, you are at still 100 FPS. Your visual clarity is just exceptionally good. And you have 50, 60 milliseconds. So if you're playing this on a controller like myself, you have nothing to really worry about. This is really nice. So game is optimized like really well. And the fact that you can, you know, crank on some path tracing is super nice. You know, again, it's just an NVIDIA exclusive at the moment, or I don't know if it's more of an exclusive or if it's more that like AMD wasn't ready for it. I'm not sure which one it was. But yeah, right through here, you're looking really good. So I'm getting a little ghosting with that 3x frame gen. So I would probably not go with 3x. I would probably just stick with 2x. Stick with 2x, then come back to a balanced preset here. And that's going to give you 87, 88 FPS overall, and your ghosting and everything looks okay. It looks really good. Now, once we get 4.5, that ghosting will basically be eliminated. You can see kind of on the corner of this wall here, it kind of has like a little bit of aberration sticking out. You can kind of see it, maybe not on YouTube. You might have to full screen, but I can overlook that for something that's this sharp and clear. So, you know, this has been a pretty good look. How I would run it would probably be right here. You know, now that I'm looking at it, I would probably say that I would run it with just performance and no frame generation at the moment. Maybe with that reflex on. Let's just go on with it. All right, so yeah, this will give you the 60s that you're looking for, and without any sort of like frame generation ghosting, just because that driver's not ready. So once that driver becomes ready, I'll probably run through this one more time. But yeah, it looks really good. This is exactly how I play it. You don't need exactly 60. I mean, anywhere around 60 is perfectly okay. And again, this is completely pegged at 4K. So I would, you know, welcome you to jump down in the comments with any kind of questions you have. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We've got Resident Evil Week going on right now. I'm running through about 12 different GPUs with this particular game. So if you're into that kind of thing, subscribe. Join, of course, if you have the means. It does help out if you consider joining. I will never have anything that is gate kept. Everything will remain accessible to everyone. It's just a way that if you want to, you can help me out. You know, not a big deal if you can't. So yeah, we're going to jump over to the 5080 next. So if you're watching this, that one could be ready. I'm going to try to get them all posted at both of them posted at the same time. But yeah, this has been Resident Evil Requiem in the opening chapter of Grace and on the 5070 Ti. So we'll see you guys in the very next video. Peace.